One of the things that shocked me as well from listening to you is your thoughts on the opioid crisis.
Yeah.
And how it's kind of, what's the right term? That it's kind of just been overstated. Is that the right way to kind of to fulfill an agenda? And it's different from everything I've heard in mainstream media.
So when we think about the opioid crisis, there's so much that's going on. The first thing people have to do when you say the opioid crisis, the question is, what are you talking about? You're talking about opioid addiction, opioid use, opioid overdose. What? So now you got,
I suppose, death, like
right.
overdose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we can focus on the deaths. And so one of the things that we have seen happen in the country, I wish you just had this graph. Since the 1990s, you see this exponential increase in the number of people who die from a drug-related death, not just opioid, just a drug-related death. And so when you have a graph like that over time, that's called the line graph. Now, there are two assumptions of the line graph that have to be met in order to have that graph. One of the assumptions is that your definition of overdose has to stay the same, and the way you collect the data is the second assumption, that has to stay the same over the time. Both of those things have changed. They've been violated. So those assumptions are violated. So
what did they change?
For example, it's called drug-related overdose death, right?
Yeah, I think we've got it up on here.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. So you see that exponential increase.
Yeah.
Now, when you say the definition, what has changed? Like, you can be in one jurisdiction, what they consider a drug overdose is different from another jurisdiction. And all of this goes to the CDC, and that is the CDC data. So like if you have a drug in your body at the time of death, right? Some people call that a drug overdose, even though you got shot. And
it had nothing to do with
the drug. Or in some cases, they didn't even do an autopsy. In most of the cases, they didn't even do an autopsy, even though an autopsy is recommended for all cases that are suspected to be drug overdoses.
Yeah.
And so, like, now you talk about jurisdiction to jurisdiction in this country. So when we think about jurisdiction, most of these deaths are certified by a coroner, not a medical examiner. A medical examiner typically went to medical school and have 4 years of forensic pathology training afterwards. A coroner is someone who is elected, just someone in the community. I think the only real requirement maybe is a high school diploma. So you got these are the people who are certifying these deaths as overdoses, and in many cases, you don't even know the level of the drug in their body, or even if the drug is in their body, it's only suspected. So you have all of this variation going on around the country, and so you have these violations of that line graph assumption. And so it tells you that you don't really know what's going on. And but we talk about it. We put the line graphs up like those data are connected, when in fact they are not connected.
It's misleading. And is that a coordinated effort to do that, or is it just coincidence of?
Well, so you don't need to really have a coordinated effort to do that. What you need to do is, like, you have grants, you have money that go to people for the opioid crisis. And so now all of these people are applying for this money, and they're all trying to show how badly their jurisdiction is in order to get this money.
So they're inflating things.
This is our incentive. So we have incentivized people to do this kind of thing. This is not complicated. But the problem is that the American public loses because we don't get to the bottom of what's really going on.